All right, all right. Good evening. Wednesday. It is September 11, 2013. Hope you all had a beautiful day because we sure have an awesome show in store for you tonight. Thanks so much for joining us here. Soul Journeys Radio on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. And our special guest, oh my goodness, words will not do her justice. So I'm going to let her do most of the talking. But she did join us a couple years ago with the release of her book, Live Through This, on creativity and self-destruction, which is a collection of original stories, essays, artwork, and photography by many just beautiful, talented, expressive, dynamic artists that contributed, talked about their stories of incest, abuse, depression, the impulse towards self-destruction, eating disorders, cutting, addiction, and contemplation of suicide, all of that fun stuff. But it is very, very real and something that has to be talked about. So I'm so thankful that Sabrina was able to compile and edit this book and get this out into the public eye, get people talking about this. Her website is sabrinachap.com. And she did release a new edition to the book with even more art and more contributors here. So we'll be talking about that tonight. And as for her music, oh my goodness, what do you call it? Let's see. Burlesque slash ragtime slash classical slash Dixie slash folk slash jazz, little New Orleans flair, everything in there, all in one. Just absolutely beautiful, entertaining, comedic, a little bit political, and just absolutely. I mean, if you don't get up and dance when you listen to her tunes, there's probably something wrong with you. So, anyways, if you would like to talk to her tonight, have any questions or comments, please feel free to give us a call at 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. And if you'd like to join us on the text chat, that's over at souljourneysradio.com. It is so good to have you here tonight, Sabrina. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for the wonderful intro. That was lovely. That was great.
I'm like thinking, what could I say about you? I've been listening to your music for years, looking at your work, reading it's just, anything I say is probably just going to deflate it. Sabrina Chap, just one of those things you just have to experience.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a weird one. So, I mean, I think that you sort of, put that up fairly off the board when I have to tell people I did a book about creativity and self-destruction and mental health, but what I really do is ragtime. Like, it's just, I sound crazy already. So,
yeah, as a classical musician, can't forget that.
Yeah, classical and burlesque and all of those things. So I'm the whole crazy package with a big shiny bow.
Classical, cabaret, and cutting. Woohoo!
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, goodness. Well, again, her website is sabrinachap.com, and she does tour all over the place. So hopefully you can check her out soon. I just actually saw recently that you tour in Minnesota.
I did do a tour last year in Minnesota. I had a great time over there. I did some gigs on actually a river boat with Nadine Dubois, who's fantastic. And then I also toured in Rochester. So I did that. I've been on the West Coast, the East Coast. I tour in the UK pretty much once a year. I'm going to Cleveland next week and Detroit in October. So I tour a lot, actually. More
nice.
Part, yeah.
Yeah, well, we have listeners in all of those places. So UK, Minnesota, Detroit, New York, I guess Pennsylvania, you go there a lot, Cleveland. So if you have not heard Sabrina, you definitely have to check her out. And speaking of which, all this work you're doing, all the touring, your awesome music videos, you do all that yourself.
I do. I mean, it's a little hard these days, being an independent musician, and I definitely want to get to a point, and I'm sort of at that point where I do need to have a booker or a manager, because I end up saying no to a lot of stuff just because I can't get back to them in time. But good thing about that is that being my own manager, I'm able to do all the crazy things I want to do. I don't think many people would think it's very smart or intelligent to mix a tour of speaking on creativity and mental health with doing burlesque shows. But I don't have anyone to say no to me, so luckily I'm able to make that happen. Yeah.
It is probably kind of a unique niche, but it's getting out there. I mean, this fear, I think we were actually having a discussion about this in a group I'm in on Facebook. And let me find some of the comments I shared with you just right before the show, Sabrina. But I mean, just totally resonated. And I know that a lot of these topics you discuss in the book, and maybe even some of it you discuss in your music, you know, we're kind of like taboo and, oh, don't talk about that. I mean, we know it's there and it's all around us, but hush, 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 you know? So I brought up the topic of suicidal tendencies. And I mean, I'll just get it out there. I said, I often fear I'll never get over my need to destroy myself. And maybe never even be able to conquer my suicidal tendencies. And there were lots of beautiful comments that came after that and talking about, let's see, the death urge spell of society. She says everything, the culture, the habits, the lifestyle, even our collective tendency to Armageddon is a symptom of repressed death urge. And what I've noticed, and you talked about this, I'm not sure if it was an interview with me or somewhere else, but you said, look, when I'm on stage, it's all good. I get an applause. But when you talk about it in real life, it's like, oh,
well, that's a really interesting thing. Part of the reason I did the book was because there's actually no honest, there's not a lot of honest talk about self-destruction in a way that doesn't shame it. Pretty much all the books are like, hey, if you cut, if you have eating disorder, if you have suicidal tendencies, that's a bad thing. And I don't think that's a really helpful discussion to have, especially if the person dealing with these self-destructive tendencies, if that's the one source of power they're feeling in their life, why would you go and tell them it's a bad thing? Now, you know, for myself, when I've dealt with these types of tendencies, it's often the most powerful feeling that I have. And I think that there is such power in these emotions that we're dealing with that I don't think it's intelligent to take that power away. So I wanted to talk about the power behind it without shaming the actions themselves. And it's, I think, one of the first times that people are able to talk about self-destruction in a way that's not damning and actually bring up a really honest, non sort of doctoral view of trying to medicate or just take away these tendencies, but simply in trying to understand them. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, but, totally. Yeah. Taking the shame away, getting it out there. And then we can, you know, many of us can realize, oh, we're not alone. Now that it's safe, we're in a safe environment where we can talk about this. Now we can move forward because then we can ask the question, okay, what now?
Yeah,
right? The repression is not clearly not helping anyone.
Yeah. I mean, having people feel bad about their self-destructive tendencies doesn't allow them to feel any power or strength in it. And a lot of these tendencies comes from places that we feel shame already. Like if you feel powerless in the world, where are you going to take it out on? You're going to take it out on yourself. So the problem at that point didn't even begin with you. It was an outsider problem. So the fact that we're having to feel shame for things that were not our problem to begin with is a way of self-silencing and keeping issues that, you know, make a lot of women feel powerless or men feel like they need to have power, sort of a cyclical problem, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Now, most, if not all, of the artists in your book, I think they're all women, right?
Yeah, I came to this initially being like, I want to have it be specifically talking about women who deal with self-destructive tendencies. In that, I'm very close with the whole sort of feminist scene. So I turned to, you know, my sort of feminist cohorts at the beginning, and one of the greatest writers in that scene is Kate Bornstein, who's actually, you know, trans, was born male, transitioned to female, and I was really excited to get Kate's discussion, an essay on how actually she needed to become self-destructive to become a woman, and sort of how dealing with you know, trauma, dealing with pain has been a way that she sort of understands herself. I'm not explaining it well. The essay is called Art is Prayer, and it's all comes from the fact that when she was growing up with these desires to become a woman, she basically illustrated what these desires sort of meant to her, and the more that she was able to draw them, the more that she was able to realize them. So there is actually some simple talk about gender as well, as opposed to simply women. And one of the authors, also from the original edition, transitioned once the second edition came in, and now goes by he. So I sort of had to ask him, do you want me to address this in the new edition? And he said, no, it's fine. And so I didn't. But I mean, there are two things with the second edition which I wish I had addressed. And one of them is talking about how there's just simple talk about gender in this. But also another one is the fact that this is an exclusively American collection. There's not a lot of talk about self-destructive tendencies in other countries, and at one point I considered expanding it to that, but I thought that you can't all of a sudden bring one British artist in there without talking about what self-destruction means in India, and that would be a totally different book. So but yeah, it's mostly women, and there's trans authors as well, but it's all sort of talking about where these impulses come from and how you deal with them as an artist.
Ah, beautiful. And it sounds like you may already have, whether consciously or not, have the next book already kind of worked out, huh?
Well, it's weird. I never thought of myself as being someone that would put a book together, because I am a musician. That's my main deal. But I believe so much in this idea, and I really wanted to know if there were other people out there that had dealt with these self-destructive emotions, that had not let it define them. The only people that I knew that had dealt with self-destructive emotions up to the point before the book were people that had been doomed to them, like Sarah Kane, like Kurt Cobain, like, Sylvia Plath. So all the people that were open about this were ones that were doomed to it. So I was very interested to understand what it meant to people that weren't doomed by it, but were able to still be functioning, artists.
Okay. All right. I'm just getting a message here. We're kind of running short on time because we are going to be playing some of your music here tonight. And we're kind of segueing into, I believe the first song we have up is We Are the Parade. So if you can give us maybe like a 40-second description, and then we will play that before we go to break here.
Well, this song I wrote in response to Proposition 8, once gay marriage was denied in California. I thought it was a really ridiculous thing. And I was trying to think about how to write a protest song that was unifying and not a protest song that was against. And I think that probably the strongest call to arms that the queer community has is their joy. And I think that there's such strength in standing together in joy as opposed to standing against something. So this was a song that was sort of using joy as a form of protest in fighting for queer equality.
Wonderful. Okay, and you did this video all by yourself, but I'm not sure we're going to have time to talk about that before the break. So whenever Adam is ready, let's roll it, and we'll come back and talk about that.
Great.
We Are the Parade as soon as Adam is ready. Woohoo!
So you're thinking you want to marry me? Well, baby, take my hand. It's a long walk up to equality. And so let's strike the band up. You know they think we don't have the right. And I love the fuck and the fight. We'll go marching together up and down the broken avenues. Never mind in the weather. I love just to be with you. So they got their rage and they got their fists. Well, baby, so do we. It's high time that we protest this shit. So, babe, come walk with me, yeah. You know I'm not embarrassed to just to be with you.
Right back with Sabrina Chap here on SoulJourneysRadio.com. All right.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night.
.com. Our special guest tonight, Sabrina Chap. We are discussing creativity, trauma, sexuality, self-destruction. She is the editor and compiled Live Through This on creativity and self-destruction, which is a compilation of very diverse contributors, novelists, poets, cartoonists, dancers, playwrights, photographers, burlesque performers, etc., talking about their path of survival and how they made it through some of these dark tendencies that we all have within us, okay? So if you're sitting back pointing fingers saying, oh, well, that's just them, they're crazy, I don't ever feel that, well, you're lying to yourself, okay? And denial never heals. So we are going to bring this out into the open, and I thank you so very much, Sabrina, for bringing these topics to light in Live Through This. You can find out more about it at her website, SabrinaChap.com. And so her new CD, We Are the Parade, and we just listened to the title track. And you said you wrote that song as a response to Proposition 8. Yeah. I don't know. I hate even calling it gay marriage. It's just marriage is marriage. Yeah. I don't know. My book, and like anyone who cares about what somebody else is doing in their bedroom is probably seriously missing out on their own life experience, huh?
Yeah, well, you know, it's weird. It's sort of difficult to try and understand where sort of queer hate or racism or misogyny comes from, and it's very easy to point and say like, well, their life must suck or they must be wrong. I think it's just a lack of understanding, and for most people, it's a fear of trying to be okay with things that are different. But the very basic thing is that, you know, love is love. So I think that everyone sort of deserves a right to love each other and have have those rights in the United States, at least, you know. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Now, when you were talking in the last segment, I can't help but thinking of some of my friends who they are transgender. They transitioned later in life. Mm-hmm. One in particular grew up here in the Bible Belt, where I have lived for the past 5 years, and I mean, gosh, I'm not even transgender or anything like that, and it's hard just being a single woman or a single mother. I couldn't imagine the type of, I mean, for example, one of my friends just visited, and we went up to Springfield to just kind of walk around and people watch, and all the church wars are going on the streets, like right where the town square where people go to like bars or go to dinner or go to whatever, and we're walking through all these signs like, God hates fags, or if you marry a divorced woman, you're committing adultery, you're going to hell, the party ends in hell. And it's just like, oh my gosh. But my friend, who is now a she, feels much better than she ever has her entire life, and her creativity has been able to flow freely, whereas the first 50 years of her life as a he, it was just very stifled, and I'm sure he felt, you know, kind of like most of us at any given time, a little suicidal. What is this life for? What the heck's going on? So I guess I was just wondering if in your book, if those topics are addressed, you know, on a level where, or are those topics addressed at all in the book?
The topics of which ones exactly?
Sexuality and switching genders, you know, or not feeling okay in their body.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think, you know, I lecture a lot in colleges about these topics. I do workshops in colleges about these topics. And a big part of self-destruction is shame in some ways. And shame comes in all sizes and forms, and it's learned. And, you know, there's a right way to be a female, a male. There's a right way to have your body be. There's a right way. You know, there's all these right ways that if we divert from in some ways, we're wrong or we're other. And then there's a source of shame in that. And when you don't see other people that are like you, it's easy to feel like you're the lonely duck that, you know, is completely wrong and, you know, doesn't deserve to be around. So, I mean, each of these essays sort of, you know, they talk about sort of the isolation that you feel when you're grappling with these problems, because that's the real true thing, is that when you're feeling self-destructive, you are very much feeling alone. You never feel like you're a part of something. You often feel other in some ways, and not having a group of people to turn to say, it's all right, you're going to get through this, makes it very easy to feel like it's inevitably going to lead to your doom, which is part of the reason I wanted to do the book, was to show that there's other people like there who've gone through this and survived it. But, you know, in terms of gender, in terms of sexuality, in terms of feeling that you're not a thin enough woman, that you're not, you know, a strong enough type of person, those feelings have resonated through all of the essays in some way, of trying to fit in and be a certain type of person. Bell Hooks actually talks a lot about how she cried out emotionally when she was younger, and being in a large family, a large black family, crying out was seen as a sign of weakness in the black community, and that her family used to taunt her and call her little Miss White Girl, by saying, you know, only, you know, your tears are a, you know, tears are a sign of insanity because strong black females do not cry. You know, and it was only in the way that she, via reading, that she read books like Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights, and she realized that children are often the unjust target for adult rage. And in those books and in those stories, she would realize that these kids were the unjust target for adult rage, and maybe she was being the scapegoat for a bigger rage. And that allowed her to accept her crying, not as tears of madness or tears of, you know, insanity, but tears of a bigger symptom that she didn't understand. And that way she was able to, you know, sort of relax a little bit into it and realize, what are the bigger problems that we're facing that's making me cry out? Because even though I'm strong and black and female, you know, we're taught not to cry. So for her, even just crying as a black woman was seen as other, was seen as weakness. So for every single artist and every single person that exists, there's a taught way that we're supposed to be in our respective cultures. And oftentimes when you're, you know, slightly away from that in any way, it makes you feel like it's your fault and you're doing something wrong. And I really wanted to have these artists talk about those feelings and bring a togetherness to their isolating feelings.
I think that's so beautiful, because when it's hidden and people don't realize that there's a real person behind it, you know, it's easy to just dismiss. Oh, well, that's just a weirdo artist, or, you know, whatever people say, right?
Yeah.
But you kind of brought these stories to life to where, I mean, everyone can relate. Okay, so maybe you're not transgender, or maybe you're not a poet, or maybe you're not as talented a musician as Sabrina is, but, you know, we're all unique individuals, and there's something within us that knows whatever this is that I'm being programmed for,
Right.
we feel it in our soul. And so each and every one of us is crying out at some point in time.
For sure. I don't think there are not a lot of people in this world that are born and know immediately exactly what they're meant to do and who they are meant to be and in the fullness of their true selves. Oftentimes we're taught by other people what we're supposed to be, and we're not given chance to really explore our own emotions until for some people it's too late. So pretty much anyone that is on the journey of true self-discovery is going to come up against some road bumps. And basically, in order to be a good artist, it is pretty much looking at yourself and trying to understand your place in the world. So even though you might not be an artist, sort of trying to understand your place in the world and coming up against road bumps, that's a very usual thing. And so I've been lucky that I've gotten so many letters from people saying that this book helped them overcome some of these problems. And probably one of the most touching emails I got was from someone who said that they were friends with someone who killed themselves, 4 months earlier, and this made them understand a little bit what she was going through. Because the fact is, there are some people that have more tendencies towards emotional high and lows than others. And, and I think people that don't experience that are really at a loss and are very scared to even begin to understand what we go through. So this book, for some people, it just allows them sort of a glimpse into that door of what it means to have these emotional highs and lows. What does that mean? Because I know that not everyone experiences this, and that took me a long time to realize. So sort of having a talking ground to say, like, hey, you know what? Your normal is very different than mine. I think that sometimes helps people be a good support network for you. Because Bonfire Madigan talks in her essay about how she has like sort of a mental health survival guide for herself that she passes out to friends to say, when I'm going through something hard, this is how I need you to treat me, because a lot of people, their realities are different and they don't understand just how difficult this is, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense, but I'm looking at the clock again. We're getting the buzz and time to play your song. So you know what? We'll just talk about it afterwards so we don't miss the break this time. Go ahead, Adam. Thanks so much.
When the hard rain falls, my friend, and the thunder keeps coming again and again and again. Don't worry, rain's gotta fall, and if it is raining, please give me a call. No, I can't take the rain away, but I'll wait with you until the rain stops. When the night falls, so fast you think you'll never see the light again after all. Well, I can't bring the sun up, I ain't got that power, but I'll sit with you in the dark and search for a star. No, I can't make the night go away, but I'll wait with you until the sun's up. drops till it all stops.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I don't think you've ever written a song that doesn't give me God bumps or chills all over or something that I can relate to. That is absolutely fantastic, Sabrina. Thank you.
I'm so glad. Yeah, I mean, that song actually comes directly out of what, we were talking about with the book. For me, it was a pretty astounding moment to realize that not everyone is self-destructive and not, really with, sort of dangerously self-destructive. Yeah. And not everyone really understood these emotions. Because when I was doing this book, a lot of my friends were sort of surprised that I was at all. They were like, well, why would you talk about this? And I was like, well, you sort of don't know where I came from, did you? And it sort of surprised me how much I had hid my own tendencies. And it made me realize that, there's some people that just don't understand what you're going through. And when you're going through those things, they don't know how to help. So I wrote that song, Till It All Stops, to sort of tell them how you can help when someone is going through something difficult. I have something when I'm doing cabaret where before I play that song, I talk about how there's 3 different ways that people respond when you tell them you're going through something hard. If you tell a friend of yours you're going through something hard, their first response, especially in New York, is that they want to fix it right away. They want to say, oh, stop crying, don't worry, everything's going to be okay, everything's going to be fine. Yeah. People are so quick to reassure and try and make you happy and smile and stop the tears because they want you to be happy. But the fact is, sometimes you're dealing with things that are really, truly hard. And I don't think that denying that fact that this is a traumatic time is helpful to anyone. So a lot of times when people are saying, oh, don't worry, it'll get better, I mean, yes, it might, but it's not going to right now, and that's not really helpful. The second thing...
Or, oh, get over it, or,
get
oh,
over
you should feel that way, or...
Yeah, or they just try and make you happy very quickly, and I understand that impulse.
Uh-oh, I'm sorry, honey. Here's the music, so hold that right there. Yep. We will continue this discussion after this short break. Stay tuned, everyone. In the meantime, check out her website. You can look at her music, her books, everything she has going on, upcoming shows, which chatters are informing me about. Woohoo! So stay tuned, everyone. That's SabrinaChap.com. Stay tuned. Soul Journeys Radio. Sabrina Chap here. And if you'd like to join us for the text chat, that is over at souljourneysradio.com. Any questions or comments for Sabrina tonight, please feel free to dial 218-339-8525. That's 218-339-8525. And you were just, we left off, you were discussing how people typically respond to people, not feeling well emotionally, and other ways that we can help, which you talked about or sang about so beautifully in that last song, Till It All Stops, which you can find on her latest CD, We Are the Parade. That's at SabrinaChap.com. But please continue, Sabrina.
Yeah, well, I was just saying that, there's 3 typical ways that people respond when you tell them, like, hey, I'm going through something hard. And the first one is that they try and make you happy, or they try and say, don't worry, it's okay, stop crying, it'll be fine. They try and reassure you. And the second one being that a lot of people try and understand you by going to a point in their own history where they felt something vaguely familiar. So they'll say, oh, I know what you're talking about, because when I was in 2nd grade, blah, 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 blah. And then they end up talking about themselves and sort of re-traumatizing themselves in a way to make an effort to connect with you. And at the very end of it, you are comforting them. So, that's another way that people often respond, is that they feel like they need to out-trauma you in order to, relate. And then the third way is that they just shut down completely. And they're just like, oh, okay, well, dude, that's hard. So I'll talk to you later. And they just sort of they can't take it. And I mean, talking about gender in some ways, sometimes I talk like that's the male way to respond, which, a lot of people would have problems with. But, I know a lot of my male friends, it's been a way that they've responded. I'm just not being able to sort of take it and sort of pretending it's not happening. And then the next thing you know, you're cut out of their life because you're not happy enough to be in it. So I wrote Till It All Stops, which is on We Are the Parade. So to sort of tell people, like, basically, if I'm going through something hard, the only thing that you need to do if you're going to be a friend is just be there, is just actually witness it with me. I think a lot of people are very excited to witness each other's triumphs. I went to a wedding recently and I was so happy to be there to witness my friends' love and joy. But not too many of us are strong enough to witness the sorrowful times. And I think that's as important as a friend and, you know, as a witness to each other's lives, to just sort of be there and say, you know, this is really hard, but I'm right here next to you until it gets better. And that's it, is just being like, this fucking sucks. And you know what? And just sort of saying to them, you know, I'm seeing what you're going through and I'm going to be here until it's done. And that sometimes is more helpful than anyone trying to fix it. So that's what that song was about.
Oh, I love that. And so true, Sabrina. I mean, speaking for myself, I think that's definitely the best thing anyone can do. And I understand, you know, people trying to, you know, out trauma the other person. I don't think they really come from that type of intent. I think maybe, I mean, at least when I want to share like my traumas or experiences with people, it's just to let them know you're not alone and I'm still standing too. But yeah, it's just that listening, as you said, just be there, just, you know, say, honey, I'm so sorry, I understand, and just let them cry. And for me anyways, by the time that's all out, it's like it's all better anyways. So
yeah, exactly. It is just the listening and the receiving. And again, I do understand how people try and sort of relate to others by saying, I know what you're going through because when I was younger, something like that. And that can be helpful. But there's a lot of times that your sort of situation has nothing to do with the other person's situation. So sort of making those equality lines can sometimes actually be offensive in some ways.
Yes.
Not saying that that's not an important thing to sort of open up to them and be like, listen, I've dealt with something similar. But I think that some people do that without understanding that they are actually not listening at that moment.
Yeah. And it's never, no two traumas are ever exactly the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautifully said. I appreciate that. So live through this on creativity and self-destruction is the name of the book, and you recently released its second edition. So tell us about how this differs from the first.
Sure, I will. And before I do, I'm talking about friends and stuff. I told you that the video for We Are the Parade, you said I did by myself, which for the most part I did, except for my two friends, Dia Felix and Anna Hovasamian, also worked on it. So, you know, I'm bringing my friends into helping me, and thank God they do, because I really appreciate their help. But yeah, so the new edition of Live Through This, I was so excited when Seven Stories asked me to do a new edition of this because there was so much more I wanted to put into it. And I'm very, very excited and lucky that I got a foreword by Amanda Palmer, who she's a great musician. She's previously from the Dresden Dolls, and she's one of my favorite songwriters and just sort of presences. And she wrote an incredible introduction for the book. And then I was able to get Margaret Cho, which was very important to me because I wanted to get a comedian. Even for the first edition, there was an essay I worked with for a long time with a comedian about, you know, her problems, which ended up not being in the book. So to get another comedian, but not only that, but Margaret Cho, who is such a force to talk about her issues, was very important. And then I was just over the moon to get the street artist Swoon, who a lot of people don't exactly know, but she's, the best way to say it is she's sort of like the female Banksy, which I'm sure she would disagree with if we had to go with it, but a lot of people know who Banksy is. He's a street artist, and she's an incredible street artist that sort of does transformative work, and is I mean, one of my like literally out of everyone in the book, probably she was the one I was most excited to just sort of sit across from and talk to. And she touched on a very important subject, which was the fact that she came from a family where there was a lot of problem with mental health and mental illness. And she grew up fearsome that she would, you know, sort of inherit those problems, and sort of dealing with how do you deal with self-destruction when you're surrounded by people. How do you respond to self-destruction? How do you respond to mental health? And she wrote a beautiful essay on that. And not only those 3 additions to the book, but I was able to go to the original contributors and ask them some very pointed questions, because all of their essays inspired people. But I wanted to simply ask them, what do you do when you feel self-destructive? What do you do when you feel like you can't create anymore? What inspires you? And just ask them very pointed questions so readers could get further inspiration from their answers. So yeah, the second edition came out, and I'm super thrilled about it, and I'm so lucky to have all of the authors in it.
Yay. So do you find that they use their art as an outlet for these, I guess we'll call them dark times, transformative times?
I think, it's a hard thing, because basically the book sort of borders between art therapy and art. And I mean, everyone that here is an artist, like they make their living, or, it's a big part of their life. So they're always going to do that. Whereas there's some people that, art is a very good and easy way to sort of face these emotions. And it's like their singular way of facing them. But for most of the artists in the book, it's more about the interplay between self-destruction and artistic output. Daphne Gottlieb, who is one of my favorite essayists.
I was just thinking of her right now. I wanted to bring her up.
Awesome. She has incredible, she has a series of incredible poetry volumes out, and she also has an incredible book that she edited of Eileen Wuornos's letters. But Daphne talks about the myth of the suicidal female poet, and how basically she faced medication in that sense of, if all my heroes have killed themselves, don't I want to be like my heroes? And, sort of knowing that her sort of emotional highs and lows have made it hard to write. So then she faces medication. But if she takes medication, it numbs that desire for writing, and hence her desire for living. So it's that delicate balance for her of, constantly facing these emotional high and lows, and being able to transform them into artistic output safely in some way. But it's much more tangled than I am sad, hence I write, even though there are those types of emotions there, because for the most part, art is self-discovery. So being able to face yourself and use art to deal with these things is a good thing, but it ends up being much more tangled than that.
Yeah, definitely. I was looking at some of her work last night, and Daphne, she's freaking awesome. I just have to say that. It's like,
I love her.
And here with the topics we discuss here on Soul Journeys Radio, you want to face and heal your shadow? All right, well, start looking at Daphne Gottlieb and .com to find out where she is next. And speaking of which, one of the listeners let me know here in the chat a little bit ago that you're going to be, I think, in Cleveland. What is it? Ingenuity Festival or something in a couple weeks?
Yes, I am. I'm going expressly to Cleveland to support my friends Pinch and Squeal, who've basically bought this tent, like the Spiegel tent thing, at the walk, and it's called the Walks de Ville. I can't pronounce it well, and it's debuting at Cleveland's Ingenuity Festival, and I am going there because I love Pinch and Squeal so much to perform for their opening weekend. So that is going to be, I think it's September 21st, and let's see here. Oh gosh, September 20th and 21st, something like that.
Okay.
September 20th and 21st, I'll be in Cleveland performing at the Ingenuity Festival at Pinch and Squeal's Walks de Ville. I can't pronounce it well, but you should follow me on Facebook, because I'm much better at updating my Facebook fan page, and also Pinch and Squeal will be talking a lot about that. But I love Cleveland, so I'm excited to be over there. Mm-hmm.
Woohoo! Gosh, I wish I could be there. All right, so the 20th and 21st of September in Cleveland, and while we're at it, we got one right here. Then I guess you'll be back in New York on the 25th of September?
Yeah, I'm going back and forth. What am I doing there? Am I doing the Slipper Room on the 25th?
That's what it says here.
I'm doing the Slipper Room on the 25th, and then I'm doing a party called Fancy. Am I sounding okay? It sounds a little weird.
It did sound weird for just a moment. I think it was just a glitch. You sound good now.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I can call back too if you'd like. But yeah, I'm doing the Slipper Room, which is a cabaret show, Tainted Cabaret. Ula Uberbusen. I'm performing with her at the Slipper Room. I'm doing something with Shane on the 26th in New York. Tomorrow I'm doing Pussy Faggot, Earl Dax's thing. I'm going to Theater Bazaar and doing a great for Detroit. I'll be there in October, the 18th through the 21st, doing Theater Bazaar and also doing a gig on Northern Lights Lounge on Monday, October 21st. And that's going to be an incredible show. Luscious Limone, Moxie Rhodes, Sweet Lily B, and put together by Shane Bang. It's going to be probably my favorite burlesque show of all time. And I'm doing some college dates. I love to speak in colleges, so if people want to book me to speak on mental health, creativity, and self-destruction, they can contact me via my Facebook fan page or just on my website. I'm doing some stuff at probably Bard College and also a college in Connecticut. I forget the name of it. But yeah, I'm sort of all over the place, and then I go to the UK in November.
Excellent. Okay. Woohoo. All right. So if you missed all of that, check the schedule, check her website, sabrinachap.com, and find out where she is. And don't forget to like her on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com, and her page is Sabrina-Chap. And there's also a Facebook page for the book, Live Through This. So you can find that on Facebook. Yes, Facebook. Crackbook. All right. Now, let me see. Okay, what song do we have coming up next in the queue here?
You know, I'm not sure because I think When I Grow Up I'm Gonna Dance, but I think that Adam liked One Night Stand Serenade. Oh, When I Grow Up, that's next, I guess.
Oh, I like the One Night Stand Serenade too.
Maybe we should play that. I don't know if we can, but if not, we can do When I Grow Up I'm Gonna Dance. Both of them are very burlesque. I perform a lot in burlesque shows. Do you want to do One Night Stand Serenade?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do that one next. This is very, very burlesque, and it's very super sexual and fun. Yeah.
Okay, so One Night Stand Serenade we'll have coming up in probably, I guess, about 7 minutes to make sure that we have time before we go to break. Sure. And, since, burlesque, woohoo, I'm glad you brought that up because I did kind of want to talk about sexuality. That's another topic that is suppressed or repressed in our society. And how I'd like to know how you got into burlesque and how, if at all, it has helped you become more free with your sexuality and how that relates to your creativity.
Yeah, it's a really surprising thing. I did my first burlesque show in 2005 back in Chicago, and I did a one-off show with Sissy Butch. They're the ones that basically they were doing fundraisers to do their documentary on Dixie Evans and that small house of burlesque in Las Vegas. I'm blanking on the name now. I did that show just because I had a song that I thought might fit with that. It was the first song that I wrote on piano, and it ended up being in the ragtime sort of experience, which looking back now is not so surprising because a lot of ragtime came from where classical musicians like myself were sort of meeting up with more jazz type thing, and it sort of has that classical dexterity to it. So I wrote this song. I thought I'd do it in a burlesque show. I was very nervous about it. I did it. It was great, and then I didn't do it again for about 5 years. And when my first album, Oompa, came out, I had a track there called Never Been a Bad Girl. And I just kept on thinking that some burlesque girl should dance to it. I knew the burlesque craze was coming on big and strong. And I just kept on thinking this would be a perfect song for someone to strip to. So I went to a burlesque show. I gave it to one or two burlesque artists and, in an awkward way said, I think that you should take your clothes off to my music. And didn't really hear back. And then I needed to tour. And I thought, you know what, let me just try and perform the songs myself in the burlesque shows. And as soon as I landed on a burlesque stage, it was like I'd sort of found my home in some way. I don't quite know what the difference of putting a bustier on while being on stage was for me. But literally, you know, when I walk on the streets, I was describing to a friend of mine the other day that my main sort of fashion choice is stage manager. Like, I always look like the stage manager, dressed all in black, like totally trying to not be seen. And that's mostly because I get really angry when I get catcalled. So I've really learned to downplay my femininity on the streets because I cannot handle how angry it makes me when I feel that I can possibly be a victim at any moment. Now, the stage is a very safe place, so it became this place for me to basically be as raunchy, as femmy, as sexy, as sort of perverted as I wanted to be in my own safe space where no one could screw with me. And it's been a very liberating and interesting thing because I found sort of parts of me come out that I never really even could name before. So I've been really excited to sort of explore what that stage brings and what this burgeoning scene of burlesque, which I sort of consider the most feminist scene going on right now, it's one of them at least, because it's all of these women discovering their most intense strengths on stage and deciding for themselves what that is and knowing that it's a safe place to explore that. So I've had a great time performing in burlesque.
Wonderful. Has it kind of helped you explode with your creativity?
You know, the interesting thing is that it has changed my songwriting quite a bit. I never really realized I was writing so much from a character's point of view. And writing in the burlesque and cabaret fields is a very specific type of writing, and it tends to be very character-based. So it's allowed me to explore that a bit more. And it just, you know, you can do anything on a burlesque stage right now, and and the audiences are so supportive that it's sort of nice to have such a sort of fertile playing ground to bring whatever notion you have to the stage. So I've done some things on burlesque stages that I never thought I'd do before, including rapping as all our Republican candidate nominees. Like, I've done things that who knew that I'd be rapping as Newt Gingrich? But, you know, it called for it, so I had to do it. So it's
the one thing I've never done, right?
Yes, exactly. And the song, exactly. That song I never thought I would perform. I never thought there'd be an audience for. It's been a really great alternative safe space to explore the more deep-rooted fears and sexual obsessions of our culture, which don't have enough of a stage time, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I can totally see how our creativity relates to sexuality, and the repression seem to go hand in hand, at least for me. I'm not like an expert or anything. I'm just speaking my own personal experience. So I can see how, you know, getting on stage in a bustier, as you say, and rapping Newt Gingrich, or, you know, singing the one thing I have never done, which is absolutely freaking fantastic, by the way. I need to post that video here in the chat. But that
awesome. Video and that one and Never Been a Bad Girl, they're on YouTube. Please share them widely. But yeah, that One Thing I've Never Done is a really insane song.
Yes.
And I mean, it was even hard for me to write. But I think, I don't know if you saw the movie The Aristocrats.
I did not.
Yeah, The Aristocrats is this one movie that came out a few years ago, and it's all stand-up comics doing the same version of their joke. And the joke is The Aristocrats. And the long form of the joke, basically, each comedian decides how they can be as far out and as disgusting, as perverted as possible. And it's just a sort of type of joke that every single comedian has. And when I sort of got the assignment to do that song, I realized that this had to be my Aristocrats joke. Like, I had to go as far as I could with it. And I had a great and sort of nervously awkward time doing it, but I'm shocked at the response that I get from that song.
That's excellent. All right. So it looks like we have a one night stand serenade coming up here. If Adam's got it ready in the queue, you can maybe give us a 30-second or so intro on what this is all about.
Yeah, no, this song is a very simple song about picking someone up in a bar. I'm not very good at flirting with people, and the way I flirt is often being like, hey, are you down? Let's go. Like, I'm very sort of direct. And I think that, you know, especially in New York, people find that off-putting to be so direct. But this is my sort of my charming way of not playing the hipster game and just being like, I'm down, you're hot, let's do this. And yeah, that's the song.
That's great. All right, let's hear it. Woohoo! So the one night stand serenade.
The things you make me wanna do to you are things I'd let you do to me. Just sidle up beside, give me your hand in mine, I'll even let you lead. For I'm emphatic on democratically serving, and you seem like someone that is deserving of a little doo-doo-doo. Here we go, the GPS is off, and honey, you are heading south. Just take a trip along the highway of my hip and open up your mouth. And what you do first, I'll do in reversing. Then you'll see the things I wanna do to you are things I think you're gonna wanna do to me. You make me, I'll make you. Well, let our bodies conversate. You make me, I'll make you. I think they got a lot to say. So what you think? Pick up your drink and pay the bill. The night is getting late. I hope you say yes to my small request, or I will have to. So take a chance on this quick romance, because honestly, the things I wanna do to you are things I think you're gonna wanna do to me. You make me wanna do to you are things I let you do to me.
All right. That was great. That blows my mind. So you're saying in New York, where the rest of the country is like, well, that's the most direct, state there is, you're saying that they don't like the direct approach?
Well, I think I'm a Midwestern girl, so I think sort of my eagerness and my sort of terrier enthusiasm scares them. I think that there is a direct sort of audience here, but you got to play the game beforehand. There needs to be a lot of disinterest. There needs to be a lot of feigning hipsterness. That's only what I've sort of encountered. Maybe there's much more directness like in fetish bars or something like that, but oftentimes, I guess I'm talking more about the queer scene too. In straight bars, I think that if you just turned to a guy and said, hey, I'd like to have sex, he'd be thrilled. But I've noticed a lot of sort of boredom and feigning boredom seems to be a way of attracting people here, and it's just sort of not my style.
I could see that. Okay, so I'm asking on the chat, let's see, do we want to hear one more song or two more with less talking? And they're just absolutely loving your music as much as I am. We get for here tonight, Soul Journey. Our special guest, Sabrina Chap, We are discussing her latest CD, We Are the Parade, but don't stop there. If you missed her last time or haven't figured it out through her website, her first one, Oompa, is absolutely awesome too. We did get to play a few of the songs last time we had you on, and tonight it's just one of those things. I'm getting tons of feedback. Everyone wants to hear more of your music, and I do too, and
Great.
so does the producer. So, you know, heck, we can do less talking and more playing. And
I'm down.
So, woohoo! We just played, which one did we just play?
One Night Stand Serenade.
That's right, One Night Stand Serenade. Okay, and you talked a little bit about that. And so the next one we're going to play is To the Ones Who Never Call Back. Tell us about this song. What inspired it?
Well, you know, I'm a very strange person in the fact that if I see someone that I like, I immediately like them, and I think we're going to be friends forever. And I'm sort of shocked when they don't understand that. And there was this one person that I felt an immediate connection with and was like, oh my God, we're totally going to be great friends, or you're going to be in my life. And, you know, she just seemed weirded out by my earnestness and enthusiasm, even though I could tell she liked me back. So I just got really frustrated because I knew that she liked me, but for some reason was playing it cool. And I just eventually was just like, fuck you. Like, why aren't you calling me back? We should know each other. And it was that frustration when you feel a connection with someone and they don't feel it back. And you trying to process that when your sort of resonance is so immediate and clear. So that's where this song came from.
Well, I tell you, I can totally relate to that. And whenever Adam is ready, let's cue that up. I'm pretty positive at least the chatters here are going to get a kick out of it as well. So just let us know when you're ready, hon. Oh, he's ready.
This is dedicated to the ones who never call back. Fuck you, oh fuck you, fuck you, oh fuck you, fuck you, oh fuck you, you, oh fuck you, fuck 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 you, oh fuck you, sit back, my pretty darling, fuck you, honey, breaking my heart every single time you do not call me back. Why don't you call me back, my pretty darling, fuck you, honey, breaking my heart every single time you do not call me back. I say let's maybe go out for some coffee or a little bit of conversation. Now you take out your cell phone. Say, okay, let me get your number, put it in my phone. So I'll wait and I moan. Every time I pick up the phone and it's a telemarketer, and they say, honey, don't wait around like a little dog begging for a bone. But I cannot help it, I can't believe you haven't called me back. You say you like me, you say you do, but I don't think it's you, honey, I don't think it's you, true. Oh fuck you, fuck you. You say you like me, you say you do, my pretty dog. I don't think it's you, honey, I don't think it's true. Every single time you do not call me back. You say you like me, you say you do, my pretty dog. I don't think it's you, honey, I don't think it's true. Every single time you do not call me back. Here we go once again. We meet up at a party for some casual acquaintances. You say, oh lady, when are we gonna get together for a coffee or some brunch? So I smile and pretend that I say whenever's good for you is good for me, you know. But then you see another friend say you'll call, walk away and leave me standing at the punch. I feel like an asshole because you won't call, even though you always say you like me. You say you do, but I don't think it's you, honey, I don't think it's true. Oh no. and say, oh my God, I've been mean. And they call, how's it going? We should get together. I'll say, oh, totally. But I can't because, you know, I lost my phone the other day. You write down your number later, I tear it up under the overpass and think, fuck you, fuck you, oh fuck you, fuck you, oh fuck you. You say you fuck you, oh fuck you, fuck you, oh fuck you, fuck you, oh fuck you, fuck pretty darling. Don't you know you're breaking my heart every single time you do not call me back? You say you fuck, you call me back, my pretty darling. Don't you know you're breaking my heart every single time you do not call me back?
Yay!
That song, I cannot get enough of it. All
Here we
right.
go.
Oh, all right.
I can never do it, I can never, no, I can never ever try and make a pass and go and try and get with your sister. Oh no, not me, master. I can never do it, I can never ever bring myself to a lady like your sister or somebody else and then try to kiss them. Though I may stop to listen when they're alone with no one to hold them. Yes, I might go over and console them, but my dear sir, you see, I'm not lying. I only go to them when they're crying for another lady. Yes, a lady said I understand all the little things a lady cannot tell a man. Like when he drives her crazy, she can't yell back 'cause she's a lady. Not the men are crazy because men aren't crazy. No, never heard of such a thing called bravado that make a certain mister think he owns his sister. I'm a little lady, you can call me Mrs. Hetero. Never liked a lady liking ladies, no, don't wanna be no sinner. Besides, who'd pay for dinner? Unless ladies that like other ladies do not go out for dinner and a movie followed by Merlot. Maybe they stay home cooking and later on they eat in. Not that I've thought it out too clearly. I'm just speaking rhetorically and since we're speaking rhetorical speech. What does your sister like to eat? Not that I would ever ask her over. Oh, no. I would never ask her over unless to go out to a nice movie where we both would be sitting there nice and quiet like ladies. When they go, they will sit there in the dark and then later go out for some nice dinner, just so they don't get thinner. And later to bring her to a quiet little jazzy club where the lights are low and everyone is deep in love. Someplace in the neighborhood where the Merlot is good. Then I'd walk her home. It's getting late, but I'd probably walk her home the long way. I hate for some man to try and take advantage of her. I put him in a bandage. So you see, the miss never put your sister in harm's way, even if she had to stay at my house till day. I'd make sure when she's waking, I'd have the coffee percolating. I could never do it. How could I go through it? Mr. Huckabee, in good faith, accuse me of kissing your sister. Please believe me, mister. I could never kiss her. She'd never let me, even if she wanted to. I've never done it. Who do you believe? Your sister? I believe the bastard polytonic. He's an alcoholic. Take it from me sober. I'll explain it over. I could never do it. It is physically impossible. For your sister, pretty mouth of mine to mean it all. She is so tall, I'm low. She gives me vertigo. Though I know of the ladies you're speaking, trust me, I'm honest as Abe Lincoln. Look, here she comes, all cute and pinkin'. Shit, Ann, stop your winking.
We got 2 for 1 in there. I love it. Oh, man. Okay, so we didn't get to introduce the second one, which I love the name, Denial Rag. Denial Rag. And then, of course, the first one was To the Ones Who Never Called Back. We kind of talked about that. So tell us about the Denial Rag.
You know, the denial rag came around in the strangest way of all time. Basically, you would never know it. You guys just listen to it. But that one was written because I was trying to write like Chopin.
Oh.
There's this great song of Chopin's that starts out with this incredible double octave, and I thought, I'm going to write just like him. I'm going to write really emotional ballads that make people cry. I'm going to be super emo. And I started writing the song, and what came out was the Denial Rag. And I was like, what the hell's wrong with me? This is completely, like, nothing could be less Frederick Chopin. But that's what came out. And I just sort of, I guess, you know, my inner emo is a little tap dancing monkey, I guess. Like, it's a little ridiculous. So I just sort of started writing that song and followed the words. And sometimes that happens, that I just begin writing the words and I sort of discover the story along with the listener. And that's sort of how that song came about.
That's awesome. I love it. Perfect name. And just, they're so very uplifting. All of your music, this CD, the previous CD, all the videos I've been able to see of your burlesque and, you know, cabaret shows and such. So thank you for doing that. And I want to, let's see, we've got a few more minutes left. There was one topic I wanted to bring up. I guess this is kind of getting back to the book, living through this, so to speak. Last time we talked, you brought up such, I thought, one of the most brilliant pieces of wisdom ever. And this was in regards to, you know, setting goals or trying new things, things that, you know, a lot of us might think, oh, well, I can't do that. And I think your example had to do with rollerblading. You were with a partner and you didn't like rollerblading, but you had this amazing piece of wisdom to get you through trying new things. So do you remember what you shared with us?
I totally know what you're talking about.
Okay.
It was a life lesson that really is carried through and has helped me sort of experience so many great things. You know, the story is that I was with someone who was, it sounds dumb to say that she was an incredible rollerblader, but she really was. She was a great physical athlete, was training at one point sort of alongside people to be in the Olympics in terms of soccer and stuff. And she was just anything physical she was great at. And so we thought we'd rollerblade. And I'm horrible at rollerblading, like really pathetically bad. And, you know, she was up there and literally she was someone that, you know, people stopped and watched her rollerblade because she was so good. And I just sort of looked at it. I was afraid to get up and to start. And I realized that that fear of starting would be with me unless I made my goal to be failure, because I knew that I could reach failing at rollerblading. I was very confident at that. So instead of having my goal be, I'm going to be a great rollerblader who doesn't fall, I made it my goal to be, I'm going to be someone who falls 10 times. Once I fall 10 times, I will have reached my goal. And that gave me the confidence to get up and start rollerblading and fall. And I fell once and I was like, fantastic, I'm closer to my goal. And then I stood up again and I rollerbladed and I fell again. I'm like, great, I'm doing fantastic. I've already fallen twice. But the magical thing was that I only fell 2 times and I was able to enjoy myself. And I didn't reach my goal of falling 10 times, but I then rollerbladed the entire afternoon. And it allowed me to have confidence in doing something I was scared of. And I've noticed this with people. People are often afraid to fail. They're afraid, like, I'll never do it. I'll never be a great actress in New York. I had a friend that was afraid to audition for acting roles at one point, and I told her, make your goal be not getting 10 auditions. And if you don't get 10 auditions, you've reached your goal. And there's something really lovely about meeting self-made goals. And if for some reason you don't reach your goal and you get cast, well, that's fantastic too. Sort of doing this little trick of the mind allows me to do things that I think I'd be scared of, because we're taught to be scared of failure. But what is failure but falling down and picking yourself back up again?
So very well said. I love how you put that. So instead of looking at it like, oh, well, I'll never be good enough, just say, hey, well, I'll fail 10 times, then I can quit. But chances are you're probably going to be a pretty good success before you get to 10. Hang on, everyone. It is that time. Stay tuned. Sabrina Chap here on SoulJourneysRadio.com for joining us. And my, oh my, how time flies when you're having fun. This is the last segment, but I'm so glad we got to share some of her beautiful music with you. And again, to listen to her CDs, to purchase her CDs, books, stay up to date with all the projects she has going on, go to her website at sabrinachap.com. This CD, of course, is called We Are the Parade, and her first one was Oompa. We didn't really have much time to talk about that here tonight, but we do want to fit in another song. So that is When I Grow Up, I'm Gonna Dance. Tell us about that, Sabrina.
Well, that one came about in a very strange way. There's something in New York called Cinema 16, where they gave different musicians a silent movie to score. And that silent movie that they gave me was a test strip for Thomas Edison when he was first trying to figure out how to do film coloration. I actually took the inspiring film strip that they gave me and I put it with the song that it inspired, When I Grow Up, I'm Gonna Dance. It's on YouTube. And it's of this turn-of-the-century dancer called Annabelle Whitford Moore. And she's just waving around her skirts, and it is beautiful. And I just looked at her and was like, okay, who would sing this? And sort of the joy of that feeling when you're young, being like, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to dance, and I'm going to show them all. Yeah. That's where the song came from. And then I wanted to give it a big band feel, so it's a lot of fun.
Wonderful. Now, a lot of people are asking, including my musician friends here in Branson, are you from New Orleans?
No, but I love New Orleans so much, and I want to get down there. I haven't performed there. In fact, I live in New York right now, but my initial idea was to move to New Orleans after Chicago, and I still want to get down there. I still want to perform in New Orleans. My old drummer lives there. I've got great burlesque friends down there, so I do want to perform in New Orleans. I love the music so much. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, the good news is, speaking of burlesque, here in Branson and Springfield, things have changed a little bit, whereas the first time we spoke, like, something like that would never be heard of, and now little, bars and lounges are popping up all over the place, and it's getting a little bit more... or less, it's getting a lot less picked on, I guess, than it used to be. So hopefully we'll get to see you down here one of these days on one of your Midwest tours.
I would love that.
Yeah, that would be awesome. You know what? When I'm in the area, I'll just stop by and say, hey, what is it going to take to get Sabrina down here?
That's great. I'd be so down for it. I love to go into new parts of the country and performing, and I'd be happy to.
Awesome. All right. So looking at the clock here, we got to get this last song in. So Adam, whenever you're ready, When I Grow Up, I'm Gonna Dance by Sabrina Chap.
When I grow up, I'm gonna dance. When I grow up, I'm gonna dance. Gonna lift my skirt, give it a whirl, 'cause Daddy, I'm that type of girl, yeah. When I grow up, I'm gonna dance. Oh, when I grow up, I'm gonna fly. Oh, when I grow up, I'm gonna fly. Gonna lift my skirt and rouge my knees. Daddy, do just what I please. Oh, when I grow up, I'm gonna fly. Daddy, I know that you don't approve, but something
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yay!
Absolutely beautiful. Seriously, I just feel it in my bones, in the core of my soul. And you have a lot going on there. As we mentioned earlier, you're the singer, you're the songwriter, you play the keys, you jump in and do all the other sound effects and organize the orchestras. How do you put something like that together?
Then you'll see.
This song was specifically, and it's still sort of a little bit going on, but this song and this entire album was really about joy for me. I really wanted to understand what joy sounded like, and to me, joy sounded like a big band. I wanted to have, you know, everything be outside and sparkly and really just joyous. So I wrote a lot of the music for it and was lucky enough to get some fantastic musicians to bring their sounds to the album. And
Wow.
yeah, it came together like that. The next album will probably be much darker and more doomsday type things. But for me, I really wanted this album just to be joyous. And I'm so happy that it turned out the way it did.
Yeah, well, you and every musician you had to help you with this CD. Thank you all. You did an absolutely fantastic job. And, you know, I really love music like that myself, especially when you get the brass in there and, you know, lots of notes. I guess I always think back at that scene in Amadeus where I forget whatever his name was. He's like, too many notes. And I'm just like, what? I like lots of notes, and it's not too many. It's not too busy. It's just perfect. Like you hit every beat with something unique, and I don't know. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I mean, I'm so happy about that. I'm happy about that album. I'm happy about Oompa. I'm happy about having more time to discover how to write new stuff. So I'm having a great time.
Yeah, Oompa was freaking awesome too. So if you did not hear it, but I did post in the text chat earlier the video, Never Been a Bad Girl. Definitely check it out. Of course, you can check it out on her website. Again, Sabrina Chap. And I think you have some other, you mentioned there's other ways to get your CD and get your music. So tell us about that and the time remaining.
Sure. Well, Facebook is the best way to contact me. So please I have a fan page, and I'm really up to date on where I'm performing there. I sometimes lag on the website. But you can go to CD Baby, you can go to iTunes and get any of my albums. You can go to Bandcamp. I try to make it as accessible as possible, but you can definitely get it online. And if you want to buy a solid copy, you've got to come to a show. Or if you want to email me, maybe we can figure something out. But yeah, the music's available, and I would love for people to hear it. So if you do like what you're hearing, make sure you share away. And, you know, I've got YouTube videos and stuff like this, but I definitely want to spread the word for the music so I can sing to different people.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing your calendar fill up, and hopefully, as you requested in the beginning of the show, let's just mention that again. Sabrina is freaking busy. She's doing all of this herself, all her own bookings, her videos, and yes, with the help of a few friends here and there. But I don't know, maybe there is some kind of, what would they be called, like marketing manager or something like that out there listening that might be able to, you know, help you out a little bit with that? Agents?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get the book out there, too. Tell people about the book, anyone that's read it. Please, anyone that's dealt with self-destructive tendencies. I think it's a really helpful book to read.
Absolutely. I mean, with Sabrina putting it together and all those other beautiful, talented women, absolutely. That's Live Through This on creativity and self-destruction. I just posted the link in the chat. Of course, you can go to her website, sabrinachap.com. There's a lot of videos of her and other people talking about it on YouTube and on the website as well, sabrinachap.com. Thank you, Sabrina. I absolutely love you and your work. You've been such an inspiration to me, and I want to thank you all for joining us here. Abundant blessings and love to you all. We will see you tomorrow night with